Hey guys, welcome to today's Explainer. So think of me as your relatable buddy who's here to show you that, well, the human brain is absolutely fascinating, but man, is it incredibly easy to hack. Today we're not just going to sit here looking at dry science. I'm actually going to walk you through a hypothetical, but let's be real, a very typical day in your life. We'll go from your morning commute all the way to an evening out just to show you these invisible psychological forces that are literally guiding your every move.
But first, seriously, have you ever found yourself agreeing to help a buddy move on a Saturday, or maybe taking on this massive extra project at work, and the absolute second the words, "sure, no problem," leave your mouth, you're just internally screaming, right? Like, why did I just do that? How on earth did they convince me? Well, let's dive into this and figure it out.
Section 1. Mastering your own mind. The psychology of daily stressors. So, picture this. It's 8 a.m. You're holding a fresh cup of coffee. You're at this morning work event, and suddenly, disaster strikes. Someone bumps into you, and you spill half of that coffee right down the front of your crisp, clean shirt. Total panic sets in, right? You feel like literally every single person in that room is just staring at your massive, embarrassing stain.
Now, what you're actually experiencing here is called the spotlight effect. Basically, there is a huge gap between what you think people see and what they actually notice. Recent research in social psychology shows that we constantly, completely overestimate how much other people are scrutinizing our embarrassing moments. I mean, I've ruined plenty of shirts myself, and I can promise you, people really don't care. The trick to actually beating this anxiety, you got to shift to a third-person perspective. Think about it. If the guy sitting opposite you spilled his drink, you'd probably notice for, 2 seconds, and then you'd go right back to your conversation. So give yourself that same grace.
Okay, so by 10 a.m., you're back at your desk and your brain is just buzzing with something else entirely. The Zeigarnik effect. This is the psychological tendency where we remember uncompleted tasks way, way better than completed ones. It creates what scientists call task tension. Actually, speaking of unfinished tasks, this totally reminds me of an incredibly embarrassing email I sent to my boss last week. So I was supposed to attach a quarterly report, but instead I accidentally attached a photo of, actually, you know what? Hold that thought. I'm going to finish that story later. Let's get back to the explainer.
So, feeling just a little bit annoyed that I didn't finish that story? Well, that is task tension in action. Your brain absolutely hates a cliffhanger. Now, what's really interesting here is how easily you can hack this effect to clear your mind. Just look at this flow. A study by Florida State University showed that simply writing a to-do list at the end of your day effectively offloads all that tension. By just acknowledging the unfinished task and writing down exactly when you're going to do it, you literally trick your brain into relaxing. It stops haunting you, and you can, actually enjoy your evening.
All right, let's move on to Section 2, the art of the ask. Getting a yes from friends and strangers. Let's fast forward to the afternoon. You're moving apartments this weekend, and you desperately need a buddy to help you carry this incredibly heavy couch up 3 flights of stairs. You know for a fact he's going to say no. So how do you hack his brain to get a yes? Well, you use a classic psychological trick called the door-in-the-face technique. Step 1. You call your buddy up and you ask him to help you pack and move your entire house for the whole weekend. Step 2, he completely rejects you, slamming that metaphorical door right in your face. But then, step 3, you sigh and you say, "Okay, man, I get it. But hey, could you at least swing by for an hour just to help me lift the couch?" And suddenly, doing just the couch seems like a massive relief to him. And look, this isn't just some sneaky bro trick. It's actual hard science. Back in 1975, Dr. Robert Cialdini tested this exact thing. He asked one group of people to chaperone juvenile delinquents on a day trip to the zoo. Only 17% agreed. But with another group, he first asked for an absolutely insane favor, volunteering 2 hours a week for 2 whole years. Obviously, everyone said no. But when he retreated to that smaller zoo trip request, compliance skyrocketed to 50%. It's all about reciprocal concessions, right? If you compromise on your ask, they subconsciously feel obligated to compromise on their answer. So the crucial point here is that asking for favors isn't always a burden. In fact, it can be a massive relationship builder. Enter the Ben Franklin effect. Franklin actually noticed that asking a rival legislator to borrow a rare book made that rival like him more. It totally flips our normal logic upside down. You don't just do favors for people you like. You actually start to like the people you do favors for.
So why on earth does this happen? 2 words: cognitive dissonance. Your brain basically says, wait a minute, I just spent my entire Saturday helping this guy move a heavy couch. I definitely wouldn't do that for a jerk, so I must really like this guy. Dale Carnegie, the famous author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, pointed out that asking a colleague for help is actually a really subtle, highly effective form of flattery. It shows them that you genuinely respect their skills or their strength.
Which brings us right to Section 3, Negotiating Like a Pro, Understanding Anchors and Scarcity in the Real World. All right, so it's late afternoon now. You've got the couch sorted out, but you need a way to actually transport it. So you head down to a dealership to haggle over the price of a used truck. Let me tell you, if you don't know how your brain processes numbers, you are going to lose your shirt here.
The dealer walks right up to you, points to the truck, and just drops this massive number, $15,000. Now, it does not matter if the truck is only actually worth 10 grand. That $15,000 just became an anchor. Researchers Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman proved that our minds give way too much weight to the very first number presented in a negotiation. Everything you counteroffer from now on is going to be subconsciously pulled upward toward that $15,000 anchor.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy power of what we call incidental anchors. And get this, it doesn't even have to be the price of the car. In one experiment, researchers asked people to guess the percentage of African countries in the United Nations. But before guessing, one group was shown the random number 10 and another group was shown the number 65. The group shown 10 guessed an average of 25%. But the group shown 65, they guessed almost double, coming in at 45%. So these seemingly useless background numbers literally change what you are willing to pay.
And if that dealer wants to close you quickly, they are definitely going to use scarcity. As Dr. Robert Cialdini notes, the tendency to be more sensitive to possible losses than to possible gains is one of the most rock-solid findings in social science. We humans are biologically wired to absolutely dread losing out on something. So if the salesman leans in and says, "Hey, I have another guy coming to look at this truck in an hour, you might miss out," your brain immediately goes into overdrive. Reframing a pitch to highlight what someone will lose is just incredibly persuasive.
All right, we're in Section 4 now, Building an Instant Connection. The magic of nonverbal cues. Okay, the day is finally wrapping up. It's evening, you're at a networking event, or maybe a party. You want to make some new friends or land a new client. Well, the real magic here doesn't actually happen with the words you say, but with the nonverbal cues your body is giving off.
If you want to build instant rapport, you've got to use mirroring. This is also known as the chameleon effect. It's this really subtle art of copying the other person's body language, their facial expressions, and even their vocal tones. It basically signals to their brain that you are part of their group. And here is an amazing little trick from psychologists. If you want someone to agree with what you're saying, simply try nodding your own head while you're listening to them and talking to them. It literally primes their brain to start nodding along and agreeing with you.
Let's actually look at the hard data on this. The impacts of these nonverbal signals are just staggering. Automatic mimicry increases rapport by a massive 30%. Mirroring someone's emotional expressions, that increases your perceived empathy by 25%. And using effective nonverbal cues overall boosts collaboration success by 35%. You are basically fast-tracking trust.
This is so effective that 90% of successful salespeople actively use mirroring to close deals. It makes clients feel deeply, genuinely understood. But I do have to give you a quick friendly warning here. Please don't be weird about it. If you copy their every single move like you're some kind of mime, it is going to heavily backfire. Research shows that overdoing mirroring can actually make you seem 50% less sincere. So keep it subtle and keep it natural.
So here is your rapid-fire rundown of practical signals you can use tonight. Maintain consistent eye contact. Use open gestures. Nod your head and match their posture naturally. Oh, and as a fun bonus trick for your everyday life, if you're a student, try practicing the Pavlov theory. Chew a very specific flavor of gum while you're studying, and then chew that exact same flavor during your exam. Your brain will literally link the physical cue of that flavor to the information you memorized. How cool is that?
And hey, speaking of our brains linking things together, I know for a fact that unfinished story from this morning is still bothering you. The Zeigarnik effect strikes again. Let me finally resolve that mental tension for you. So, I sent that email to my boss, completely forgot the quarterly report, and accidentally attached a photo of me and my buddies dressed up as giant hot dogs for a weekend barbecue. Yeah, I literally had to go into his office on Monday morning and explain why a file named quarterly_financials.jpg was just a picture of me covered in mustard. All right, hopefully that clears up your cognitive task tension. But seriously, I want to leave you with this final thought. If our brains are so easily influenced by random anchors, subtle favors, mirroring, and unfinished tasks, who is influencing you right now? Are you really making all your own choices, or is someone else pulling the invisible strings? Stay sharp out there, pay attention, and don't let anyone pull a fast one on you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you guys next time.